G'day guys, and welcome back to another One Piece deck profile, and welcome to the full powered Uta list. If you haven't seen our budget build, which is the two starter decks or two copies of the starter deck combined together, go check that out. We'll leave that in the card. And if you haven't seen our breakdown of the Uta starter deck, we'll also leave that in another card in just a moment. But for those of you that don't know, let's take a look at Uta. So Uta is a mono green 5000 5-life leader. The effect is Don ×1. When attacking once per turn, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is a film type card, you can add it to your hand. Otherwise, it goes to the bottom of your deck. So going by that, we know that Uta is going to have a lot of film stuff in the deck, which is very true for the optimized build, which we'll be looking at today. This effect is really good. Your hand size is always going to be absolutely massive when it comes to Uta, so you have to watch out when playing against purple. That blocker law can hit you real hard sometimes, but otherwise every other matchup you're sitting nice and pretty. In terms of going first or second, you probably just want to take away whatever's going to be better for your opponent. So most of the time that is second in this current meta. So yeah, going second just to throw off your opponent. You can definitely go first and still be able to play really well in this deck. We'll talk about a few different lines, cards that you want to see as we go along as well. First of all, we're going to talk about our searches. Uta itself is a searcher for our film archetype. We are also running 3 copies of Nami from OPO2. 3 cost, 5000 body, no counter on play and when attacking. You can rest the Don, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 film type card other than Nami to your hand, and the rest go to the bottom of the deck in any order. So really good. Ideally, you do want to play Nami when you have 4 Dons, so you can get that extra search straight away. So good on turn 2 if you're going second. And the only matchup you really need to be cautious about just throwing this out willy-nilly is into Sakazuki. Sakazuki is probably this deck's hardest matchup out of the things running around most of the time in the meta. The next searcher that we're running 3 copies of New Genesis. New Genesis is absolutely a wild card. Cost you 1. Main, if your leader is Uta, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal 1 film type card other than New Genesis, add it to your hand, then place the rest of the cards at the bottom of the deck in any order. Then you get to restand one of your Don. It's basically a free search, which is absolutely insane. And between these 3 cards, like your leader, the Nami, and the New Genesis, you're going to have a hand size sitting like 10 plus a lot of the time, which is absolutely insane. Alright, we're going to talk about some key film cards coming up next. We are running just 3 copies of the Monkey D. Luffy from OPO2, the Blocker. 7 cost, 7000 body. On play, you can play 1 film or straw hat type card with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. The 7k body is really nice. The 7 cost makes it a little bit difficult for things like Sakazuki to remove. They do have to spend a bit of resources on there, but running 3, very, very searchable card. The next card that we're running, which is ideally the card you want to play off Luffy's effect, which is Brook. Brook costs you 4, 5000 body, 1000 counter. On play, you can play 1 film or straw hat type card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So you can kind of see how this is going. For 7 Don, we're getting 2 characters and possibly 3 characters. Before we go into the characters that you can play off Brook, the other character that you can play off Luffy is Zoro, which are just running 3 copies of Zoro. 4 costs 6000 body, so it meets that threshold for Luffy to play, and it's just a vanilla with a 1000 counter. Now going on to the cards that we can play off Brook. So ideally you want to go Luffy into Brook. Then you can play a vanilla, just like the Zoro, but it's the Usopp, which is a 3 cost 5000 vanilla. The other card we can play, which is probably a really good one, is the new Blocker from the starter deck, Uta. 3 cost 4000 body, 1000 counter. End of your turn, you can trash an event from your hand and set one of your film type characters as active. And we have 10 events in the deck, which means this effect is usually going to be live. You're always going to have some sort of event, especially with all the search power that we have in the deck. And be able to play a blocker with a character into another blocker is absolutely wild. And the last card that you'll be able to play off the effect of Brook there is we're running 3 copies of the promo Bart. 2 cost, 3000 body. End of your turn, you can rest this character, set one of your film type characters other than Bart as active. So you can be nice and aggressive with your Luffys or your blockers or any of your characters here really, and you can just restand them, protect them, which is really nice. Now I know Bart is a bit of an expensive card, So if you don't have the Barts, what I would do instead is I would run another copy of the Zoro, run another copy of the Uta blocker, and then run another copy of one of our events, which we'll talk about in just a moment, but that event is Blacklight. Moving on to the rest of the big boys that we have in the deck, we're running 2 copies of the vanilla Frankie. Frankie costs you 5, 7,000 body, or 1,000 counter. Unfortunately not playable off any of the spamming out effects that we've seen. And sometimes part of me, if you do have the Barts, part of me does want to cut a Frankie for an extra Zoro, and another one for maybe another one of the blocker Utas, or for the Usopp, or even a Blacklight as well. So yeah, I'm not completely sold on this card, but it is really good into those bigger leaders, those 6 cost leaders like the Red, Purple Luffy and the Newgate. They can be quite good into that, and so can Zoro as well, but just sometimes playing that is really nice. Frankie is really good on curve. You do have lots of search, so you can find it for your on-curve stuff as well. The last big boy that we're running, and this is the card that I mulligan for if I don't see in my opening hand, is the 10 cost Doflamingo. So running a full play set of this Doflamingo. So this is actually the first card that we see in the deck that is not searchable. And there are 14 cards in the deck that are not searchable. And we are maxing out on almost all of them because they're not searchable. With the effects of Uta and your other searches, you're going to be bottom decking a lot of stuff, and most of the time is these guys here. So this is why I want to mulligan for the Doflamingo. It is a game changer, this card, especially if you can have a couple and you go back to back. It's half your opponent to deal with. You just put your opponent so far behind. Right, we're going to move on to our 2k counters. First of all, running a full play set of Chopper. Cost you 2,000 body, 2,000 counter. The effect sometimes can come up. Don times 1 when attacking, you can rest one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 2 or less. Sometimes, yeah, it's good to just rest pesky searches that things want to buff up and swing. Can be good going into other green decks where you want to try and take care of sugars as well. But most of the time it is going to be used as a 2k counter. The next 2k counter that we are running, we're running a full play set of Izo. So this is another one of those cards that are not searchable. Cost you 3,000 body. On play, you can rest one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 4 or less. 4 or less is very prominent in this meta right now. Sakazuki is pretty much all of that, which is insane. Your yellow decks have a lot of 4 or cost or less as well. The only thing that it doesn't really touch is your purple Luffy. Most of their cards are 5 cost, but otherwise a great 2k counter to have in hand. And the last 2k counter running on another full play set of Scratchman Apu. So we're running 12 2k counters. Scratchman's effect is Don times on 1 attacking, you can rest one of your opponent's Don. Sometimes, very rarely will come up, most of the time is just used as a 2k counter. Moving on to the last of our events. The first event that we're running is 3 copies of Blacklight from the starter deck. This one is really good for board control. Cost you 2. Main, if your leader is Uta, you can do one of either of the following. You can rest something with the cost of 5 or less, or you can KO something that is rested with the cost of 5 or less. Now this hits all decks in all shapes and forms. This is why sometimes I do want to run an extra copy of it instead of a Frankie. It's very viable to do that. It is searchable as well, so you can quite easily find it for those matchups that you need. Just really helps you with good board control early game, and late game helps you rest blockers so that you can swing in a full game. Plenty of games where I'll come into some of the harder matchups that like to run a lot of blockers, like your purple Luffy or your Sakazuki, and this card has just won me games. The next card that we're running is 2 copies of I'm Invincible, also from the new starter deck. Cost you 3. Main, set your Uta leader as active. So it turns Uta into a Captain Kid starter deck Captain Kid. Basically exact same investment required. Resting 3 Don and using a card from your hand just like Kid. So in an ideal world, you can get 2 12k swings with your leader, which is absolutely insane. Also has a trigger, you can give one of your characters or leaders 1000 power during the turn. Definitely that does come up sometimes if you just need to save something or have just be 1k stronger to survive one more turn. Otherwise most of the time you're just going to use it for that extra swing effect. The last 2 cards in the deck, the last 2 cards that are also not searchable, is because the side of justice will be whichever side wins. So this is your 0 cost, trash a card from your hand, buff something by 3000 event. Most of the time, each turn that we're playing, we're maximizing the Don that we have available to us, because we're always going to be attaching a Don to Uta to swing and get her effect there. We got the big boys like 10 drop Doflamingo. So it's always good to have this as an option, just so you're never really kind of left without counter. We do have a few events in the deck, as we mentioned as well, and a few cards that don't have counter, so this comes really handy with that there. The trigger is you can rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 less, so there's a lot of resting stuff in the deck as well to help you with that board control. Alright, there's the deck in all of its glory. Let us know what you think of Uta, and let us know what you think of this build. If you guys have your own kind of concoction going on there, let us know in the comment section down below. But we've been finding a lot of success in this list here. Definitely more of a grindy kind of slow play style, which does suit the meta. You can really outgrind your opponent with your things like your big 10 cost, always spamming out the board when your opponent gets some good removal going on there. So yeah, really fun deck to play. Like, it's probably not going to win you any tournaments or anything like that, or at least on the bigger stage. Locals, you can definitely take out locals with this deck here. But yeah, let us know what you think. Thanks for checking out the video. Stay beautiful, and we'll see you all in the next one.